Hi, thanks very much for joining me again. This little video is for once not about any products, but about dare I say it, trimming up pen blanks. And I know there are lots and lots of videos about trimming up pen blanks, and I'm also not going to claim that this idea is a new one that I've discovered by any means. I know there's several other videos out there. I think Paul Lockwood has got one on something very similar. If I can find a link, I'll put it there as well, because why not see two maybe slightly different approaches. So there's videos already out there. The reason for me doing this is that some of you might not find those videos, and I think this is quite a good way of trimming up pen blanks to get them correct. Now, I've done a little bit of preparation work to start with because I've had a little bit of experience with recently with some pen blanks that have come in what shall I say, banana shaped. They're not absolutely square. If you're starting off with a completely square blank and you drill it absolutely down the centre, brilliant, no problem at all. You can use things like barrel trimmers, you can use the pen jaws on your chuck on the lathe. If you've got a pen vise, not sure quite where you would spend a lot of money on a pen vise, but some people do spend money on a pen vise or build a pen vise. They're great for square blanks, but the minute you have a blank that's slightly not square or off kilter, they're really not very good at all. What you're actually trying to do is to trim the pen blank up level with the brass tube, not with itself. And for that very reason, what I've done today, just to accentuate the problem and show you what it is, I've actually got, I think it's beech, one of my favourite woods. I know it's cheap and cheerful, but I love beech. This is a bit of beech, and I've drilled a hole for this tube, and you will see how I've drilled it completely and utterly wonky. And I've done it that way simply to show you what you can and can't do if this happens. It's doubtful that you will get one quite as bad as I've done that today, but you might well get one that's not quite straight, but by eye you can't see it. So I'm hoping that what I'm going to go through today, and there's a couple of tips at the end about holding things and disassembling things and whatever, just a couple of tips that I've picked up over the years that I think are quite good. You can be the judge of that. Hopefully this is going to help you get a nice square blank for your pens. So what I'm going to do is point the camera at the lathe and show you a couple of, shall we say, traditional methods of trimming up pen blanks, and you will see with the blank that I've drilled wonky what the problem is. What I've got here is a pen blank. This is the one I've drilled wonky, that has gone into the pen jaws on the chuck, and if I was to bring my tailstock up and drill that, it would drill in the centre there, no problem at all. It would come out the centre at the other end as well. However, whilst it's centred at this end, and I could bring up, I can't on this one obviously because I've purposely messed this one up. When I bring up the barrel trimmer here, I can trim this end, no problem at all, because this is the end I've drilled. This is absolutely level, no problem at all with that. But if your blank isn't absolutely square, when you take it out to turn it round to do the other end, that is when the problems occur. Equally, if you have some kind of vise, and this is just a bog standard cheap, I think it's a silver line vise, this one, and you try and square up a blank that's not quite square, you basically end up with the same problem. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. If the blank's not absolutely square, this is the effect, albeit, as I've said, this is really accentuated the problem here. This is the problem that you're going to get, and if you never get your blank square with your tube, you're never going to have a pen that fits correctly. So let's have a look at a barrel trimmer, and I have to say, we used to sell these, we don't sell them anymore because I loathe them. One of the problems, and one of the things that we're asked a lot, is do we know anywhere where you can get the correct size shafts to go in every tube that there is for every pen? And the answer is no. You're very unlikely to get that, because there are now so many pen kits on the market, so many different sizes, you're never going to get the right size absolutely spot on. There are sleeves you can buy for an exorbitant price for specific pen kits, and well, if you want to waste your money on that, that's up to you. I wouldn't, because there's I'm coming on to the easy way of doing it, but just to give you an example of the difference in pen tubes, I've actually got two, and I'll show you two tubes that essentially look exactly the same, but they're not. So here I've got two pen tubes out of two what I commonly called Sierra pen kits. They look pretty much the same, the length is the same. If you've got a micrometer, you'll find out that they're not quite the same. The outer diameter, ever so slightly different. I've got a transfer punch here, and this is what we're going to be using in a bit, and you will see that this one fits onto this 10mm transfer punch, no problem at all. That's for that pen kit. This pen kit, I can swap that over, so I haven't got, God didn't give me enough hands, but anyway, that it won't fit because there's just a fraction of a millimetre difference between the two, despite the fact they come out of similar pen kits. As you probably heard, I've just dropped it on the floor. So hopefully that shows you why you're never going to get a barrel trimmer exactly the right size for whichever pen kit it is you're using. So the question is, how are we going to go about trimming the blanks up correctly, level with the tube? And the answer is that's to use something that actually moves along the tube rather than along the actual blank itself. And what I'm going to do is get rid of that horrible barrel trimmer. What I've got here is this is an arbor blanket. You could use anything, and what I've done, I've used double-sided sticky tape. I've stuck some abrasive paper that's going in that end of the chuck. The other thing that I've done, and I don't normally advocate buying tools, but on this occasion I have. These came from Arc Euro Trade in the UK. I think if you're watching in America, probably Harbour Freight is where you'll get them from. It's a transfer punch set. They're not particularly expensive, probably around about the same size. Around about the same price as a barrel trimming set, around about, certainly in the UK, about 15, 16 quid, something like that. There's a whole variety of sizes here, and one of these sizes will fit into that. I know which one it is because I checked this first. A 9.5mm. You can get metric and you can get imperial. It's up to you which you get. I've got both. Not that I'm showing off, but that will fit into there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this transfer punch in my Jacobs chuck, and I'm going to run my glued blank, when I've glued it up in a minute, backwards and forwards along there to make sure that my trimming is absolutely level with my tube and not my blank. And hopefully if I hold that up there, you can see how that's going to work when it goes backwards and forwards on the lathe. So what I've got here is my tube, just to demonstrate, and this is my engineer's square, and hopefully you'll see that fits absolutely spot on. The reason for me showing you that is because I'm going to just demonstrate now how this system works on the lathe. Let me repoint the camera down there. Let's zoom that in there and you'll see what I'm about to do. So I've got my Jacobs chuck at this end. I've got my transfer punch here. The tube is going to run backwards and forwards along, and it's going to run on that piece of abrasive paper there when that's spinning. And you will see, I'm going to get that a little bit closer. Let's lock that off. You probably can't, I'll try it. If I do it like that, you might be able to see better. That is how I'm now trimming gently the end of the tube, and that is keeping it level. Even if, stop that a second, even if there's a little bit of movement here, as long as you hold it in one direction, you will get it level. It's only if you twist it on the transfer punch slightly that it will go wonky. So we'll take that off and we'll bring that back up and pop the engineer's square back on there again, and you will see again it's still absolutely square. So that's what we're actually going to do with the tube stuck in the wooden blank that we've got here. I've adjusted the camera angle slightly, hopefully it's going to give you a better view, and I'm also hoping you can see I've glued that blank in there, and I'm not sure if you'll pick this up on the camera, but it's not level in the end of that blank there. So let's pop it on here, get it all set up, and we'll just trim off. There'll be quite a lot to trim here because I've accentuated the angle so much, but hopefully you'll see how it's going to work. There's an awful, because of the angle I've cut this, there's an awful lot of wood to trim off on this. You wouldn't normally be this far out of kilter. Let's take it off and have a look and see if you can see. I'm hoping that you can see that the sandpaper is now starting to trim level with the blank. So again, this is the side that's been, this is nice and smooth, this bit hasn't been touched, and hopefully you'll see in the end there that we're actually beginning to get flat. I said because I've accentuated this so much, there's an awful lot of sanding to do on this. You wouldn't normally have quite as much to sand off as that, but hopefully you can see how the principle works, and that is how I do, using this little method, trimming pen blanks to get them absolutely level. And the other advantage, of course, is that that doesn't need sharpening. You can take that off and stick another bit of abrasive paper on the end if you want to. If you've got a spare face plate, like, you could stick something on that and have a bigger one. There's all kinds of configurations that you can use for this type of setup. Slightly different, but the principle is all the same, and the principle is running the tube along one of these. So hopefully you'll see that is the tube trimmed off level there, that is the tube trimmed off level there. These surfaces are flat with the tube. However, if we look at the whole thing, you will see the angle that it's actually done, and that's the angle that it's cut because I've accentuated the offline bit in there. And what I've actually done is use a slightly bigger arbor blank here. I've actually attached a Velcro strip and a sanding disc on here. These do get quite hot, but actually that works quite well as well. So I think that's probably the method I'm going to stick with. It seems to do really quite a good job. So there we go. Now, just quickly before I go, sometimes we get people say, oh, I can't get the bushings to fit in. Well, sometimes when you sand off the ends here, or when you use a barrel trim or anything like that, you can get tiny little burrs around the inside. So I just use one of these. It's just a cheap diamond file with a slight curve. I just pop that on the inside. Just remove any burrs and they should fit quite tightly. Our bushings tend to be quite a tight fit because that's the way we think they should be. So I think that's pretty much covered everything. I hope that's been helpful. As I say, I've now really done away with the barrel trimmers altogether. I use one of these sets. They're also quite good for disassembling pens, I'm told. I haven't actually tried it. I don't really disassemble pens. I've made one or two mistakes and errors with pens, and I normally find that if I've wasted £5, that's a good enough lesson to make sure I don't do it again. But each to their own. You can use them for disassembling. Bag on the end, hold them in a vise. How are you going to hold them in a vise? I don't know. I'll tell you another little good tip, because I've outgrown one of my old belts, sadly. I line one of my vices with some scraps of leather. It's really quite grippy. It's quite soft, so it doesn't damage anything. It's really good for holding brass if you want to do anything with brass. A bag on the end of your pen and gently tap the part out if you need to do that. So hopefully that's another little tip that's worth considering. So I hope again that's been handy. I hope, I say, I'm not trying to steal anyone else's thunder, because this isn't my original idea at all. There are other videos out there. As I say, I think Paul Lockwood's got one. There's several guys in the States that have done similar ones, but just in case you haven't found those, I know some people come to the website and do follow us. I hope that I have at least shown their method of doing this and the one that I now use, and also hopefully explain quite clearly why that is a better way of doing it than using all kinds of other tools. So Thanks very much for watching. If you need any help, drop us an email. I'll always do my best to answer. We hope you'll come and have a look around the website, even though we don't sell anything that I've shown you today. Until next time, enjoy your workshop, take care, see you next time. Bye bye for now.